Wow. Okay, so here's a beautiful way to start. Why can't I ever get it to focus the way it should? Venus is just right there, the tip of Sagittarius. Has left Scorpius, cuts through Scorpius, not along Scorpius, but through Scorpius. That doesn't sound good. Something's caving. Okay. And, no, I don't need it. We have 3 Sagittarii, which is a classical Cepheid. Oh, we got to look into that. Okay, and we have M8. Too much light. Lagoon Nebula. And we have NGC 6553 Globular Cluster. Okay, so we'll get into those at some point, but that's where Venus is leading the way, because way over here. No, I don't want the menu. There's, look at that. Look at that sun. Okay. Where are you, Virgo? There you are. Here we are. Sun is today look at it, how they show it shining. Midpoint. Actually, I'd say, yeah, he crossed the center point. When I was going to do this video a little earlier, a few hours earlier, and there. So we are into Libra. So we will finish up in Virgo, but look at this. We've still got Mercury near that Spica. Near all that energy of Spica, which is quite possibly the most powerful star energetically for being the great architect's star. I'll get into that today. And Mars still very much in Virgo. So as long as our Mercury is in Virgo, our mind is in Virgo, our magician's in Virgo. So been there for quite a while. That's where it went retro. But in terms of negotiating energy into Libra, we've already had Venus go through there, so it's going to be interesting. So our triggers and our instincts with the sun. So now what I've done, put the phone down. Why didn't I pause for that? I don't know. Final day in the lighthouse of Virgo. I've been cramming. They've had me cramming on 2 fronts. Still finishing up the beginning of dry, which is going to take me longer than I wanted it to, but then they also working on pages and pages. This is, I don't think I'm halfway done, but this feels good to get all of this done. I haven't finished this page yet, that's why it's not printed. I can say this though, the ink that I got, I didn't get Canon ink. Normally I get Canon ink for my printer, but I went with one of the brands from Amazon. And it's not bad, but it's to the pinkish tones. And so you can see how Rose's face has turned out here from Votre Voyage Tarot. So she's a little too pink for my liking. So I don't think I have a lot of this ink. I have a lot of it, but that's okay. It can sit there. I don't know how. I think sooner than later I'm going to go back and get Canon ink. It's not bad, but it's, you know, I don't want a pink face. So on a technical note, we get into that. But I went and this is all about, this week is all about your guides and your concerns. What the whole thing is about 6th house, yes. And I went and checked into, because of this time thing, because of finding out that lighthouses, that keepers were put out of work 20 years ago because everything was automated, right? And then a reading from Minnow Pond saying work backwards. I watch for Aquarius because my moon is Aquarius. Things lined up to prove the point. And somebody left a comment on a Scorpio reading I did, and he had a problem with timing and the whole theme. He was coming out of commercial fishing boats, so it had everything to do, it was all, I went and looked up Doctor Who, right? Because Doctor Who is a Time Lord. And the fun part is, of course, anybody will have this theme applied to any area of interest, but ranker.com, which doctor from Doctor Who are you according to your zodiac? So the fun part is the 6th doctor. We can give this a bit of a backbone here. Libra, we know now for sure, is only just starting. Libra's true dates start November 1st, let's say, onwards. So what they classify as Libra doctor energy and the 6th doctor is actually Virgo energy. And then of course they put the 8th doctor as Virgo. So double the Virgo, right? But but a thing that really I need to get into is the star Chitra. Let me get a good, and Chitragupta, writer of the Akashic Records, ruled by Tashta, also known as Vishvakarma. And I found Viktakara's Astrology, made some very interesting points about, there's Chitra, it can also be spelled with an H. We're talking about Spica. Here's the constellation, and there's Chitra, but that's Spica. However, Chitra, it totally dovetailed with my beginning of drawing because Chitra is the star. It means, in Sanskrit, beautiful picture. It can also mean bright and jewel, but beautiful picture. Also went, of course, back to KRS and see what they've done to his skin color with the ink. But Chitra Nakshatra, it spans, in the nakshatras it spans, they get Spica energy to span Virgo and Libra. Known as, it represents the architect of this universe. So here we go. Here's where the Freemasons get their stuff, right? Well, the Great White Brotherhood, period. Rosicrucians, Templars, Mormons who are Masons. You know, the list goes on. Catholics, but here he brought a panel together on KRS. Chitra means beautiful picture. Chitragupta is the keeper of the Akashic Records. So, I mean, however, whatever we want to say about who actually keeps track of us, what name they want to hide behind, how many people, right? But the energy of all of that, the Big Brother energy, is with this star. And they are not happy that I've come to this point in my journey to know this. They knew that they knew I'd come to know it, but so God and Gods and Goddesses Wiki fandom has a good story of a clear telling, but I go to everybody, right? There's a really neat blog post on, God, I can't get it, vovatia.wordpress.com, written by Nathan, Chitragupta's record collection. And of course I've got the nakshatra chart down there. But Tashta is the energy, according to Rig Veda, Tashta is the artisan of the gods. So he'd be the great architect. Later he's identified with Vishvakarma, counted among the 12 Adityas, born to the sage Kasyapa in Aditi. And we get into dealing with Brahma and Yama, who we dealt with. Yama we found out about back in Gemini, because Yama is the father of the twins, the Ashwin twins, the Gemini twins. But here Vic gets into abstract power to create must exist before anything can be created. Now, I think a lot of the philosophy we work with through all of this and in tarot would work with that. Kabbalah takes from that. But in terms of what I have learned and figured out through my drawing is that no, shape comes first, form comes from shape. That's how we get abstractions. And that will be the ongoing fight. I don't think that there's an agreement or a disagreement there. I think there are opposing forces around that. And so there's this amoral creativity attached to the star of Chitra, of Spica in Virgo, which is so interesting because we start with, let me get here, I did this printout, yes, of the progression through Virgo. And Venus was leading the way, of course. But see over here we have Purima. Now that's the prophetess star. She's at the elbow. And then we have Spica, which is in the grain. Where's the thing that she's holding? I might not actually be able to show it well enough. See there? Okay. It's a pretty dark print. I could just get the phone out again. But see, there's her hand. Yes. All right. So from her elbow to her hand, we have this wonderful prophetess energy. And Purima is one name for, what did we say? The prophetess who with her sister, those are part of a threefold sisterhood, but they have that maternity festival in January, a few days apart from each other. And then you have this amoral creativity, what Vic terms non-partisan, which is really nice if we don't have good and evil. But if we do have good and evil, and with the Akashic records and karma, yeah, we do. So they need to make up their minds. And what I want to say is, I can only be grateful to Vedic astrology and to India for all the work that they have done for so long in order to arrive at articulations of these, to even pursue the depth of these concepts, yes? And then to be able to articulate them at all, that totally gives me something to work with. It gives anybody something to work with, yes? And so it's a gift to have the articulation, even if you don't like the articulation, even if you don't like the truth of it. If we don't have it, then we don't have anything to like or dislike. So they win it for me. They win it for everybody by doing this work. However, I do not like the energy of amoral creativity. I understand I adhere to drawing, I adhere to the discipline of drawing, and drawing teaches me, yes. But there is such a thing as my morality, as your morality, and it's the pulling together and growing up and making a decision about what is right or wrong and what to do about it, and to be even braver than being amoral. And so basically, another thing, I don't have it in this version. I changed out this part for another part in the drawing version. But people born, the sun will hit Chitra around the 15th and 16th of October. Now, the person who sued me 4 times was born on the 16th of October. And Chitra natives are known to get into epic legal battles with formidable foes. The joke, the joke of this is that I'm born directly across the zodiac from Chitra, almost completely directly. I'm under Bharani. I never say it the way they say it. Bharani. I haven't done the page for it yet. In Aries, they have a constellation. It starts at the base, at the top of the ram's tail, but it's in the shape of a V. It's 3 stars. And it's modeled, they say it's modeled after the vagina. And that's what it represents. So, and it's ruled by Venus, but it's also ruled by Yama. And then it's associated with Kali, which explains why Kali is the person who showed up in my home. And this is opposing Kali, and Kali opposes sorry, Chitragupta and Tashta, and who in particular? Because you have the Brahma creativity that comes from Tashta creativity. But yes, and because literally they just oppose each other. One's coming up on the horizon, one's going down on the horizon. Same as Orion and Scorpio, right? And so I got caught up in 6 years of legal battles because I had a kid with somebody who was born under the star of Chitra. Beginning and end of. Beginning and end of. But this creativity, this great architect, right? This is exactly where we go with all with Theosophy, with Thelema, with Golden Dawn, Freemasonry, Kabbalah. That's where we go. It all starts with this great architect energy. And so, and it's been a wild time for me. And especially coming from the Parima energy to the Spica energy. So Virgo is just wild time. Absolutely Time Lord. Absolutely things being time sensitive. So then who is working with us in this? It has to do with writing, it has to do with drawing. Absolutely it does. It has to do with symbol work. It has to do with health. Because things that came up for me that I've made the effort to include in this so that I'd have it printed up for today. A lot of nature, a lot of dreams. I had several animal dreams. A speaking mouse. A mouse was speaking to me. I've just got ticks here, but it's actually ticks behaving like termites. And I have information on termites in dreams, but I thought I included it, but I forgot. Then we have the advice to hug a tree, and I found the tree that I had grown up with is actually a black willow, and I didn't know that. I knew it was a pussy willow tree, but I didn't know what kind. So now I know what kind. So they had me get in touch with that. I returned to Oz, and in my homes that I cleaned, there are many dog statues, just like there are in the Gnome King's treasure room. And so magic and nature, absolutely. Another David Lynch. I dreamt of 3 women working with me in a version of a retail in my old fabric store days. And they had dyed their hair blue. So I had a blue hair dream, and I was talking to them about it, and the next day I watched Mulholland Drive by David Lynch, and it ends with, where did I put it? Where did I put it? It's here. Ends with blue hair. So I don't know how many more David Lynch connections I'm going to make, but I've got a ton of them, and I put them all here. Because he even channeled a Bunny Lake song. Bunny Lake is Missing. He channeled the zombies on my son's birthday. And on my son's birthday, he also chose my number 6. And then he mentioned the zombies, and I had just finished watching Bunny Lake is Missing because of Hampstead, my Hampstead case. And then my dad had done a reading for me, and it pulled a whole bunch of Hampstead things together. I took the reading one way when he was doing it in real time, and then I went home and I was looking up a reference in one of the oracle cards. They mention where is it? Now I'm gonna miss it. Oh, there's a hill. Dang it all. There's Parliament Hill. Okay. Parliament Hill in the No. In the which one? Oh, sure. Let's see here. Sale. Oh, I've even done myself in. I didn't keep track of it well enough. Okay. Well, in this oracle, in the Celtic Tree Oracle, yes, talks about Parliament Hill. Parliament Hill is in Hampstead Heath, which is where my case that I've been working on for the past 6 years, that's where it's located, in Hampstead. Bunny Lake is missing. They turned the storyline so that it would be set in Hampstead instead of New York. So, and then there's all kinds of clues dropped in Bunny Lake is missing, and then that takes me through my Carol Lindley connections. So I think Virgo, what Virgo has proven to me, and everybody that gives Virgo a hard time for being caught up in detail work, the details actually really, I took the time to finish this up because I know that by going back, by taking the time to go back and get the perspective and do what seems like actually might be beyond ridiculous at this point to do, by doing it, I find things and I can prove things that otherwise can't be found and otherwise can't be proven. And they, you know, it pulls things together, and it pulls things together in my mind. It gives me certainty, if nothing else. And it gives me the fact that I have pursued the certainty. I have laid it out. It is here. That's so much of the work. That's so much of the work just to get that done. The dead rabbit that showed up on my dad's lawn, everything that connects to. It just, you get it down, you slave away through it, and they've pushed me beyond. Like, I've been in, I think enough of us, it's showing up in readings how many are in despair about how long it's taking to get some things done. But then of course there were relationship things that happened that were totally covered. What is here that's, yes, Eight of Swords has been totally prominent for me. It's been doing magic tricks. It did a magic trick for me in a Taurus reading I did, and then it actually flipped out of Victoria's hand the other week, and then she went looking for it in another reading, and that helped, and she found it exactly where my Chiron placement is in my chart, which is why I have a photo of my chart there. The readings from the Aboriginal Spirit Oracle when it arrived, the cards that came out for me there. And then they talk to me through, they keep telling me to follow their lead. And so I started up the computer yesterday, and there was a prompt to watch a channel that I hadn't watched yet, White Feather Tarot. And this video is called What Type of People Are Looking for You? Match with You. Okay? And so in terms of marketing technique, so I watched it for that, in terms of how to set up the marketing campaigns for beginning of drawing, or for anything really. But, and so they got tactical with me even at the very last minute. So I included that. And so that's the kind of help that I've been getting in this house. But what I want to show, and I'll put it up to the screen, hopefully you'll be able to read it well enough. What I need to do in that same format with photos, and I have all the photos, the screenshots, but I need to do the layout of this. So, Chitra, Spica, the great architect, leads us into magic squares and I Ching. Why? How? Because we're talking about what the blueprint is for this universe. Yes? Magic squares are tied to that. They are, if you're not overly familiar with magic squares, do I have it printed up yet? No, I don't. A woman that I met because of the Hampstead case, Sabine McNeill, Curjo McNeill. She was a CERN mathematician, and she and I connected on the drawing level right off the top. She's a whistleblower for the Hampstead case. It's a controlled case, yes. And she was used badly, and she's now in prison to take the fall for the whole racketeering ring. Not that she was in a racketeering ring. She has been trying to set up interest-free money, currency. She's been fighting forced adoptions. She got through to the EU. She's reached the hearings. She had things processed. She was making waves. She was succeeding. So they shut her down. But first and foremost, she's a mathematician, and she was coming up with a digital I Ching that was proving the similarities between the I Ching mapping not only the universe but also through DNA. Which takes us to the fact that everything comes from everybody but the Great White Brotherhood. They take it from everybody else. The Great White Brotherhood take the I Ching, develop their chessboard. Well, the chessboard doesn't come from them, but they take it and run with it. Then we enter the dualism of the Great White Brotherhood. Okay? And here we have the application of numerology. Yes, I have this conversation with Michael Lolia, who's reminds me of somebody else that I got into a fight with because of Sabine. Get into the medical. Mayo Clinic, founded by a Freemason. Mayo became a Freemason same time as he started up. Then you get into Frank Braceland, who was brought in to set up Mayo's psychiatric department. Yes, World Psychiatric Association, American Psychiatric Association, Canadian Psychiatric Association, you name it. About 250 or more organizations are tied to the World Psychiatric Association. They're all stemming from work done by Fabre and Pichot. Pichot was a president of the World Psychiatric Association, so was Frank Braceland. We're talking about people that are part of torture programs. Carnegie and Rockefeller come along. They hire a guy named Flexner. Well, there are two Flexners. They're brothers. One's academic and one's pseudo-medical. They're the ones that do the report that shuts down over 100 medical, I want to say over 100 medical colleges, universities. And that's how we end up with the medical system we have now. They're tied to other people that Cold Spring Harbor, Kaiser Wilhelm Institute, Rockefeller backs everything, including Tavistock, which is also privately funded by Unilever. Tavistock is almost entirely privately funded because everything they do is for profit. But then they are also tied in with the military. They come from military. Well, that brings us to Sargant, William Sargant, and Cameron, who ran the Montreal Institute, Allen Institute, the torture center. They're funded by the CIA. Chisholm and Reese. Chisholm is another Canadian. Reese is the Englishman. Reese is tied to Tavistock. He and Chisholm pair up. World Psychiatric Association, and they start a whole bunch of stuff that connects to, it starts up the World Health Organization, okay? We have a situation called C4. It's all military tied to medical, where you control the medical environment of the patients. and what they do. We've got DARPA funding Moderna and the mRNA. Turns out Carrie Mullis was working with DARPA. Mr. Hero, who gave us the PCR test and who was totally outspoken against what was done through the AIDS pandemic that was created on purpose. And he would have been very outspoken about the situation we're in now. So they killed him off in 2019. Oxford's also a partner with Moderna. Is it with Moderna or is it with Moderna's partner? Who's the... God, okay, no. The UK... I'll get it. That's why I left a ... So we have GCHQ, which is intelligence headquarters in the UK, MI7, which they claim they've quit, but what they do is they run social media intelligence. Yes, there's a Wired account that covers that, which takes me back to Michael Aquino, who is Aquino. Sorry, Mike. David Schroeder's main torturer, military intelligence, and Great White Brother. So we've got that all tied down. That's what they got me to finish up. It looks easy to say it this way, but what they did was they got me to get all the articles from the websites themselves. I'm not talking about third party. I'm not talking about so-and-so whispered such and such about such and such and put a post up about it. It's like, no, I went to original websites. All these people will tell you the story themselves. Muhammad Aziz needs to be given huge tribute. He is the one who fought for Merck to develop the ivermectin to be, and then got them to donate it to countries for treatment for humans, for parasitic ailments. And yes, Merck on their own website will tell you that a high enough dose of ivermectin would be effective against COVID-19, but it's too high and the FDA won't approve it, which takes us back to the FDA and the FDA's Orange Book, Hello Orange Lodge. And FDA started off as the patent office. So, those are just a few of the names to consider. But that is where Virgo has been taking me. Again, it has everything to do with being sued 4 times or more by somebody who was born under the star of Chitra. Remembering that Rabbit is the messenger for Hermes and Mercury, the ruler. So any rabbit messages. Yeah, so Yoni is the symbol of Bharani. And Yama also rules time. So there's the whole story of who I am up against and not knowing that it was astrological. Yes. So my visit from Kali actually timed itself. Kali visited me on October 19th, 2019. So right after the sun was going through Spica, through Chitra. We really need to learn the nakshatras because in order to fix our chart, we need an uneven chart for sidereal, and we need to know when the sun is actually going through constellations. And the constellations are so big. So in order to know for sure, then we can chart them by the fixed stars, which are the nakshatras. Well, the nakshatras are more than just the fixed stars. They're smaller constellations as well. Some of them are single stars. And I was led to Luxor Temple, where Manat's temple. This is where Hipparchus discovered that precession of the equinoxes was a real deal. And of course, Vedic astrologers would have told him that, but he needed to find out for himself. Nobody in the West was going to agree to that. Although the Egyptians should have, but this is later on. I don't know if he gave them credit. He very might well have, but he might not have. I don't know yet. But I was at that temple with my son when he was 10. And I have the photos to prove it. Anything else? Yeah, no, my dreams. That's about it. But that seems pretty loaded. White rabbit trauma conditioning. Any rabbit trauma conditioning. That's an MK Ultra. So I do owe Jim Kaler a big thanks. And if we go back in here, Yes, I know I'm out of focus, sorry. And I've been finishing up the book, finishing up my journal pages. Pretty much done there, but this guy has been such a huge help. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, James. All his work on stars and explaining them. If I hadn't gone back into Sky Safari, tapped on Spica, right? Tapped on the little eye for information connected to Spica. It's Jim that let me know about Chitra. He's like, also Spica is also called Chitra. And here I made that note of it, right? Where did I make the note of it? Because where is Spica? There's Prima, here's Spica. Other names for Chaoshu, Alpha Virginis, Azimech, right? But there, where? Nakshatra Chitra. Because of that, I went looking. And if I hadn't done that, then I wouldn't know that this is the great architect star. Right there. I wouldn't have got all the final clues. So, anything else? And not to forget our supercluster of galaxies. So it's been quite the ride in Virgo. Quite the ride. And I would say good versus evil. But the problem is you can't write it off as easily as that. It can't just be that it's evil. If it carries... Where did I put it? If it carries an indifferent energy, and it's just about design. But we also have, Chitra is also a star connected to beautiful children, creating beautiful children. What's the problem with specifying beautiful children? Aren't all children beautiful, no matter what? So for me, and this is not, India is not responsible for the sky and the stars, right? So this is not, I'm only giving them credit. I'm only giving the geniuses of Indian astrology credit for knowing all of this in the first place. But in terms of energies, if that's the energy influencing us towards wanting beautiful things above and beyond, preferring, well, that is a choice. That's not immoral. That's not indifferent. Eugenics go down that road. And so for me and my work in drawing, this is totally critical for me. And it's not an accident. It's not an accident that this book overlapped. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't, because I put the lighthouse. I didn't know. I hadn't gone far enough. Which bugs me because I always go pretty deep. But I didn't know. There are no more lighthouse keepers. We were all made redundant 20 odd years ago. Pay wasn't brilliant, but we weren't poor. Roughly £200 to £250 per week. In theory, as long as there were no storms, you could fish as often as you wanted, as some keepers fished with kites. His channel is just full of this stuff. Peter, hello. Totally recommend it. But no, I didn't know, I didn't appreciate what it would mean that we would actually go through Virgo's house during Virgo season and pretty much finish up simultaneously, and that we would layer up the Venus energy with Libra and Taurus house. I hadn't got that far ahead. So the way it's all working out Everything is on point. Everything is on point. And so no, I can't look to Virgo energy for finishing things up. I can look to Virgo energy and Virgo house for worrying about the details. That's why the mouse dream, that's why the termite dream, the tick dream, well, they looked like termites and ticks. More like ticks, but they were behaving like termites. And so, no, it's all about the detail work before you finish up. So, that is devil's in the details. For sure, for sure. So, Capricorn and Virgo. And Taurus for that matter. So I'm actually fairly afraid of Taurus. And I did pull out Mercury. I did pull out the planets pages. I pulled out Gemini just to compare everything. And at this point, yeah, it is tied to the drawing. There's a lot that's tied to children and drawing. Through Mercury, through Pluto. So, do I have it here? Where do I have it? I want to get... And of course my North Node being here. And this is all the rest of the... Even just the... In terms of predictions, I have all of these left. Some of these are in there, in this collection, right? But most of these still have yet to be done, so I could easily double those pages. But I do want to say, no, it's not that sheet. That I have to figure out. Of course, it's the last two pages. I have to figure out what the deal is, because this wedge has to now go to here. Yes? I can say that there was a 3-week period where my son was out of town, and so we might be facing a 3-week period of productivity here. But it's not the usual overlap, right? And then we have to figure out how that affects Libra. So I have to revise what the deal is. So this needs to be fixed. And I also need to figure out how to reconcile. Do I just overlay one chart with the other chart on the other chart once I've figured out the different placements in order to get a birth chart accurate? You know, because everything is set. Everything needs not to be set to the equal, even 30-degree splits. And that's where we're at with Virgo. I'm very hesitant to leave this energy. But we have left it. We have already left it. We're already into Libra. It's like, no, there's going to be something else I have to do. How? But, yeah. So that is it. That is it for the lighthouse. It's time sensitive. It's not about being somebody else, being more relevant. It is about actually being exactly the person who knows what you're supposed to know. Like, whatever your Virgo placements are, that's your Time Lord. That is what exactly. Apply it to your North Node. Apply it to everything else. Worry about the timing of things. Find out what your Virgo placements are. And put the stress on answering to them. It's like the alarm. It's kind of like the emergency. It is the lighthouse. Everything rides on it. Everything rides on being that beacon at the right time and the right place. And so before I start crying, That's it for week 32. On to the master. Oh, and I found out I'm a 33, right? So now we hit week 33. And Taurus. Welcome to the round tent. So we have to figure out how to get from the lighthouse to the round tent. I'm just checking. I know it's jump time. And in this documentary, he's there for a month, and then he gets lifted out. Two guys are permanent, or one guy's permanent, and the couple come and go. They take turns. Because it's offshore. So he gets helicoptered, like the helicopter lands on top. Yes, helipad, that's where they get their exercise. And is there anything else? But yeah, you get airlifted out, you pack up your stuff, you go, you come back again for another shift. But in order to get to the round tent, the idea of packing up, the idea of transporting, the idea of being the fool, the idea of having just what you need, being mobile. Yes, that's the energy that we're carrying. Leave what you don't need behind. One last thing. 6. Because it's the 6th house. And 6s for me are gifts. So the idea of Virgo, the lighthouse as a gift, all of this, what has happened. Where's my... And remember, Mercury will be transiting Spica for a while yet. Kali came and gave me a gift for sure. And Kali started up something with me in January 2016. Yes. She's also the Buffalo Demon Slayer, which explains why I went through a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer phase, and I've always loved Buffy St. Marie. Not because they slay buffalo, but we're talking buffalo demons. But in terms of gifts, yes, the gift of Kali. Yes, the gift of the Facebook invitation. The gift of all the guidance, absolutely, but that's always. So definitely there was, and then I had an incredible day on Saturday while cleaning. This one, Susan, one of my spirit friends, she died suddenly of cancer. She, oh, I also need to dedicate this to Debbie Constantino and Mark Constantino. Debbie was murdered by Mark, and then he killed himself. They were paranormal investigators. I just found out after watching Zach Bagans' regrettable but still fascinating movie, shall we say, about Demon House. My son and I used to watch Ghost Adventures religiously in the first seasons, up until just after Nick left. which I knew that something would happen to the group after they went to Ireland. Because Ireland's just way too much power to try and push around. But and it could be for other reasons as well, or instead. But the timing of it was such that. But no, Debbie and Mark Constantino would come in on the show, come into locations often enough and help out. And I just always really liked Debbie's energy, and I didn't mind Mark's. And I know that it's very hard once something's attached itself to you. And a lot of the men in my life, when energies get attached to them, very strong, right? It's very potent through, not that it can't be potent through female energy as well. That is for sure. And it can manifest deeply in me, but but my soft spot for guys, that's how it gets at me. And so I don't want to say too. I know Mark they had a history of violence with each other, but I wouldn't be surprised if her violence was self-defense violence. But I don't want to discredit too much because I don't know enough yet. I want to see if I can talk to them. So I don't know if Debbie hates Mark's guts at this point. It's been 6 years. It happened in 2015, so I just found out about it last night. But so I've had 2 major gifts of contact, but I'm used to contact. But no, something very much has been going on very well with my partner, opportunities as well. And so absolutely in this month things came through that were outside of my efforts. They're connected to my efforts, but I couldn't make them happen, right? I didn't know, even if, no matter what happens with Facebook, I couldn't make Facebook offer what it offered, right? Is what I'm saying. And so that's energy that I can work with. So yes, a gift definitely came through, which fulfills the 6. Like unique to this, as opposed to gifts in other months, where the emphasis, I would still say the emphasis, the numerology is correct for the other houses so far. Yes. It's all holding steady, which I expect it to at this point. There's no way I wouldn't expect the numerology to hold. And that is something I thought a few years ago, even 2 years ago, I would never hear myself say. Okay. Be back soon with week 33. I'll try and do week 33 during week 33. But it's kind of neat to do this on the last day. The day where the sun has finally left Virgo. But it's not over till Mercury's out of it. Okay, much love. Bye.